Throughout the Bible, there are many stories of ordinary men and women living with great faith. What I love about the lives of those mentioned in the Bible is they are not smug, and they are very rarely getting things perfect. We read about their humanity, their frailty, their faults and their fears. You may have heard of the story of Noah. He built a huge ark and saved the animals 2 by 2. Well, it's a lovely little story and many tell their children, but just for a moment, let's think about the faith it took for Noah to build this massive boat. Those around him must have thought he was completely crazy. I'm sure at times he questioned what on earth he was doing. But he trusted God. He built the boat and the flood waters came. Then there's the story of Moses. We may know of the Moses baskets we place the newborns in. He had many questions for God and was not secure in his ability at all. But he trusted God and by faith set a whole nation free. But before any of that, I'm amazed at the faith of his mother, placing him in a basket and sending him down the River Nile. Again, she put her trust in God. She had huge faith. Or the faith of the disciples. They were about their normal day when a man approached them and said, "Give up everything and come and follow me." They put their faith in this man named Jesus because there was something about him, something that made them question what they'd been doing with their lives so far, something different in the way he spoke about God. There was power behind his words and they trusted him. You know, while Jesus walked the earth, he did many miracles. We can read about Jesus, the miracle worker, not only in the Bible, but also in non-Christian writings. First century Jewish historian Josephus recorded Jesus as a miracle worker, as a wise man who also worked startling deeds. It was these miracles that caused many to believe and put their faith and trust in Jesus. Now, I've lived with a chronic health condition for most of my life. I've prayed hundreds of times. I've had others who are full of faith pray for me too. And as of yet, I still have the condition. Now, during one particular flare-up, I cried out to God, "Please heal me. Why do you hate me? What else can I do?" I was so desperate. And in that moment of despair, I felt God say, and I'll try and explain it well. It wasn't in a booming, audible voice, but more like a thought, but with power. I knew it wasn't just my thought because my thoughts were full of self-pity and it's not fair. I felt God say, "Do you trust me?" And it stopped me in my tracks. Well, yes, God, I do trust you. I then had such an overwhelming sense of peace and security that despite my circumstances, God could be trusted and I was okay. Nothing had changed in the outside, nothing had changed in my body, but my faith had changed. I look back over the years and I saw how God's intervention didn't always come as miraculous healing, but he would guide me in ways to look after my body. He would give me wisdom of how to care for myself. I would know that maybe a certain food or a drink would make the condition worse, and this was long before recent scientific research has confirmed this. Psalm 22:24 says, "For he has not despised or scorned the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry for help." I love the Psalms. It's a book right in the middle of the Bible. But here we find honest conversations with God about suffering, about doubt and afflictions. But we also see how the writers cling to God, and it is their faith that God hears them and sees them, that he is working on their behalf, even if it doesn't look like it. You know, we can come to God honestly. I don't think doubt is the enemy of faith. Doubt can cause us to search for answers. Doubt can cause us to pray and to search for God. Doubt can cause us to read through the scriptures looking for truth. What can be an enemy of faith is fear. The fear to trust God. The fear to accept Jesus and the Holy Spirit. The fear to believe that God will still do a miracle. I might not have seen my miracle yet, but it doesn't mean I'm afraid to keep believing, to keep putting my faith in God. There's a wonderful story in the Bible of a woman who was healed of a different chronic condition. And why I love this story is the woman didn't follow a set of procedure or a pray certain prayers. She wasn't anyone in particular. She wasn't important in her community. In fact, due to her condition, she was an outcast. She would have had to have stayed away from all of the people. But the woman had heard about Jesus, and even though she knew she should stay away, she had to get to him. Let's read from Mark 5:24. So a large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. And when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I can just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding against you," his disciple answered, "and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." This story still gives me hope. But more than just hope for my situation, I love how this story shows the desperation of the woman. She tries to sneak a miracle because she feels unworthy to be in the presence of Jesus. She's an outcast. She's not good enough. And when Jesus realizes that power has gone from him, she comes trembling. But Jesus shows us once again why we can trust him. He doesn't reprimand her. He doesn't tell her to go and clean herself up and then present herself at the church at the appropriate time. He says to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you." We don't need to know or understand everything. We might not know the words to say. This woman just wanted to touch a bit of his clothing. Wherever you are today, whatever you face, you too can reach out to Jesus. He might not physically be in our town centre today, but he is only a prayer away. For more resources on how to start this journey of faith, head to the website on the screen, tbnuk.link/exploring. So come honestly to God today. Pour out your heart to him. Give him your doubt.